Yeah, so basically, if the shoot away machine rack never happened, all this crazy stuff wouldn't have happened, and that's the point that I want to get across. But also, like I said, I think that my grandpa didn't help with the situation because he didn't understand it. Nobody really understood. Nobody understood it was a shoot away machine, and then my grandpa came up with all these stupid rules like no talking about the past and then trying to make me independent. And they didn't realize they don't know about basketball. They don't know how much the videos would have helped me and stuff. So if my family would have just talked to me, if they just would have acted normal, none of the crazy stuff would happen. But I was basically abandoned is the way I look at it. So, if they wouldn't have forced me to go to Kauai, if they would just would have talked to me and just treated me normally, none of the crazy stuff would have happened. But because of that, all this spiral to chaos occurred. So, as I described, my family forced me into the first psych ward. The doctor said I definitely did not have schizophrenia, but he wanted to see if I had maybe bipolar. I stayed there for a week. He said I didn't have schizophrenia or bipolar. They let me out. My mom said that she would give me a place to stay only once I started taking medicine, and she said that I tricked the doctor. Even though the doctors, the medical professionals at the place that I was at said that you can't trick the doctor. You can't, if you have a mental illness, it's impossible to trick the doctor. That's what they said. So, but my mom didn't believe that. Now, my grandpa even told my mom. My grandpa, who has a PhD in psychiatry or psychology, he told my mom, Ryan does not have a mental illness. But my mom didn't believe him. My mom thought he was just crazy. So, my mom my mom hadn't seen me. My dad hadn't seen me. They haven't talked to me because, they remember. They're saying like, Ryan, why do you want the basketball videos? You're stuck in the past. You're stuck in the past. No. They're the ones who are stuck in the past because they're the ones who won't see me because they're still mad about the past. They're still mad about high school when the chaos occurred. And I'm telling you, the only reason why it occurred was because of the shoot machine. If it wasn't for that, I know I was perfect. Everything I was doing, I was automatic. The only thing that happened was I was practicing picking the ball off of a rack, which messed up my shot. And then my dad tried to fix it and told me to do it the wrong way. And it led to chaos. It led to everything just deteriorating to madness. And if it wasn't for the shooting machine, none of that would happen. Now, I didn't realize that until college when I looked at videos and I saw me shooting on the shooting machine. And I saw that it was a shooting machine that messed everything up. It was a shooting machine rack. All right, so, and then I described that my mom said she wouldn't give me a place to stay. So I went to the second psych ward to ask them if I could talk to the doctors to see if they could tell my mom to stop trying to make me take medicine. And they said they couldn't accept me because I wasn't suicidal and I didn't have any symptoms of mental illness. So then I tried to go back to my grandma's place. My mom wouldn't let me. My mom and dad, they said that they only, they met me outside of my grandma's place. It's the first time they actually had seen me in forever. And, they were just like, once you take medicine, then you can have a place to stay. But until then, good luck living on the streets. So then I went to a neighbor of my grandma's somewhere close to her, and I just asked them to call the police and tell them that I was suicidal, which I was not. But I just wanted to go to the psych ward so I could talk to the doctor so that he could tell my parents that I didn't have a mental illness and to tell them to stop trying to make me take medicine. So they took me to the psych ward. They took me to the police came. They took me to the behavior unit, and then I went to talk to the doctor. They took me to BHC Alhambra. I was on a 5150 because I had said I was suicidal, even though I was not. And then the doctor at the psych ward was like, I told him the situation. I said, I don't have a mental illness, but my parents are telling me my mom's telling me that she'll only give me a place to stay once I start taking medicine. But I told him I'd already taken the MMP, when I was at UCSD, I took the psych testing with my friend who had worked in psych wards. He was a Jewish guy named like Bucky or something. And and he told me that I didn't have a mental illness. So I told him that. I said, I don't have a mental illness. So can you tell my parents to stop trying to make me take medicine? And he said, okay, I'll do that. Now, this is where stuff gets really crazy and horrible. So I'm on the 5150, and he said he's going to let me out the next day. So then I call my my aunt, and my aunt's like, you need to take the medicine. You know, you sound like you have mania right now. Oh no, this was later when I called my aunt. Never mind, it was later. First, I called my grandma, and I was like, Grandma, can you get me out? You know, can you get me out of the psych ward and give me a place to stay? Because I talked to the doctor. The doctor said I don't have a mental illness, and he had asked me questions. He said I didn't have a mental illness. I said, can you please, just tell Mom to now just give me a place to stay. I don't have a mental illness. Stop trying to make me take medicine. Then my grandma said, your mom said that you need to let her and your dad talk to the doctor. And I was like, no. And then she said, no, you have to. If you don't, your mom said that she's going to destroy your basketball DVDs. Can you freaking believe that? And like I said, this was my obsession forever. I had wanted, at this point, I wanted to get my basketball DVDs, which had been in Los Angeles when I was in Kauai. I wanted to come back and get them and put them online. And like I described, I'd already started doing it when I was at, it's just so chaotic, so horrible what happened. So I already started doing that when I was at Malibu at my grandma, at my dad's mom and dad's house, my grandma and grandpa from my dad's side. I was staying with them in Malibu. But like I said, then I got in an argument with my grandpa because my grandpa was like, I told my grandpa that Leah, my sister has a car. How come I don't have a car? Why am I stuck here? Can I get a place to stay? And he was saying, well, you need to get a job and then you can get a car and stuff. And, you need to be independent. And I was like, I discovered the theory of everything. Can I please get help? And this is the thing and I was like, this is what the problem is. This whole, like, you need to be independent. This is what my mom and dad have taken this. And now they're using this as like, oh yeah, let's make him independent. Let's totally neglect him and let's totally throw him to the side and not talk to him and cast him away from us. And like I said, my grandpa had messed things up, but he would say, no, I cast pearls to swine. They misinterpreted it. Regardless, he wasn't helping the situation at all. So I got in an argument with him, so he wouldn't talk to me anymore. My grandpa wouldn't talk to me. So my grandma told me, Ryan, so when I was there, I started putting up the DVDs. I started putting the DVDs online, some of the DVDs that I had. And I'd even lost more during this whole process. Like I said, he kicked me out. Then I had to carry my DVDs from his house in Malibu to my grandma's house in Granada Hills. And I hid them in the closet. And this is just chaos, right? So, and like I said, if I can study the DVDs, when I was young, when I was 10, when I was 9, I won an AU national championship and I was playing games where I was scoring 30, 40. And the coach said I was doing these like these Tim Hardaway crossovers. These crossovers, he said nobody could guard them. I want to study what I was doing. And I had a few videos. One where I did this like one crossover when I was like 9. I had a video of it. And I had scored like 20 points against a team that was a year older than us. And I had other games like this. But in this one, I did this one crossover where it reminded me of Dwayne Wade, but it's different. Like I did a foot drag thing. I'm not going to go into details because I don't want to make people think. But I did this crossover and I wanted to study what it was, but I had lost that DVD on that day that my friend tried to steal my car in 2010. I described that and I might get back to that more to that later. But I had lost like at least 30 DVDs and I barely had any to begin with, like I said, because my dad went to every one of my games, but he didn't record because he couldn't watch and record at the same time. And my mom went to most of my games, but she was too afraid to make mistakes, so she didn't record. So it's just crazy all the terrible mistakes that were made. So I wanted the DVDs and I wanted to upload the DVDs that I had, ones that I had that didn't lose during that day, and that I had at my grandma's house that were cassettes that I had transferred to DVDs. So I wanted to get those and I wanted to put them online. I wanted to put them on YouTube. But my grandma told me when I'm at the psych ward, she said, if you don't let your mom and dad talk to the doctor, then your mom said that she's going to throw your DVDs away. So I was like, I said, I remember I just felt like a flood of adrenaline, just like the worst type of pain you can imagine without being hurt, right? I wasn't physically hurt, but I felt like extreme pain, anxiety. Like I can't even describe the amount of suffering that I felt right there. Because think about this, dude. My mom's threatening to destroy my DVDs. This is what I've been thinking about I've been thinking about it since the beginning of college when I wanted my basketball videos so I could study, so I could fix my shot when I figured out what happened to the shoot-away machine. And I just wanted to study swag flow when I lost swag flow, and I'm not going to get into details about what that means in college. So I said, Grandma, do not let her destroy the DVDs. My grandma's like, well, you need to let her talk to the doctor. So I had to fill out paperwork to let my mom and dad talk to the doctor. So she said, well, once you fill out the paperwork to let your mom and dad talk to the doctor, then we will not throw away your DVDs, and we'll keep your DVDs. But if you don't, we're going to throw away your DVDs. And I was freaking like, I was dying at this point. So I was like, okay, I'm filling out the papers. So I filled out the paperwork for the doctor so my mom and dad could talk to her. So then I see the doctor the next day. And the doctor says, well, your mom and dad say that you think that you discovered the theory of everything and you think you're the Messiah and all this stuff. And I never really was saying like, I'm the Messiah. I never really did that. I never did. I kind of sometimes insinuated it, but I would never like explicitly stated it. But like, I discovered the theory of everything. Yes. But it's not schizophrenia. My grandpa even said it's not schizophrenia. I discovered an interesting theory. He didn't think it was true at this time, and I'm going to get to that more later, but I did not have schizophrenia. So, so the doctor was like, yeah, well, your mom and dad say these things. And he said, do you think you're the Messiah? And I was like, no, but, because when I was talking to my friend from UCSD, he had described how if you have schizophrenia, you have to have a delusion that is not culturally appropriate. And I told him, in the Jewish religion, anybody can be the Messiah. I'm not saying that I am the Messiah. I'm not saying that I'm not, but anybody can be if you can bring peace to the world. And, so I'm not going to say I am. I'm not going to say I'm not the Messiah. So, so the doctor was like, okay. And he was like, well, what about this quadrant model? What is this? You say theory of everything. And I was like, and I told him, well, I have a book on it. It's online. If you want to look at it, you can read the book, but I don't really want to talk about it. Because I didn't want to, because I knew to keep my mouth shut. But the thing is, at this point, I was there on a 5150. So I think that what happened is, he thought to himself that, for in the psych wards, they want to play it safe. And if they just let me go, then, let's say something happens, they could get sued, right? So they have to give me some sort of type of medicine. So he was like, well, I think you might have schizoaffective disorder. So I'm going to say that you need to take, some antipsychotic medicine or whatever. And I was like, I don't have schizophrenia. I don't have bipolar. I don't have anything. So I was like, no, I'm not going to take any medicine. And he was like, okay, well, you can talk to the judge and the judge will determine if you can take the medicine or not, if you need to take the medicine or not. So, and like I said, this is terrible because the only reason why this happened, it wouldn't have happened. He was going to let me go. The only reason why this happened was because my mom, I'm not making this up, my grandma blackmailed me. Probably my mom was behind her telling her what to say, telling me that if I didn't let my mom and dad talk to the doctor, then they were going to destroy my DVDs, which is the most important thing in the world to me. The most important thing in the world was my basketball DVDs. So, so at that point, just imagine how horrifying this whole situation was. So then I remember they had a basketball hoop like in that we can go to one time a week, and it was like off in like a little basketball court that was off in like this little room out in the middle of nowhere. But I was playing basketball, and there's some black guys there, and they're like, "Damn, like you're really good." They're like, and then they told me, they're like, "Yo, do not let them make you take the antipsychotic medicine because they're like, you're really good, and if you take that stuff, you'll never be the same." They're like, those people that walk around with the zombie shuffle. They said this is because they take the antipsychotic medicine. Don't let them make you take it. So I was freaking out at this point. Now listen to this. So I call my aunt and I'm like, Rachel, please get me out of here. Like they're gonna make me take really dangerous medicine. My aunt said, you sound like you have mania. Like I said, my aunt's crazy, and I'll get to more to that later. She thinks she knows everything. She doesn't know very much, and it's insane. She's very immature. But I'm gonna get to this. But she's like, you sound like you have mania right now. You just take your medicine, Ryan. And then she hung up. So I call my grandpa. And then I'm talking to my grandpa. And my grandpa picks up. I said, Grandpa, I'm in a psych ward and they're going to make me take antipsychotic medicine. Please, can you get me out of here? And my grandpa said, this is the consequences of not being independent. Now, it turns out, I'm going to talk about this later, is my grandpa didn't believe me. My grandpa told me later, if he knew that I really was in a psych ward and they were going to make me take antipsychotic medicine, then he said that he would have gotten me out. That's what he told me later. But he said that he didn't believe me because he said, I didn't have any symptoms of schizophrenia. So he said, how the hell did the doctor diagnose you with schizophrenia, you don't have any symptoms. My grandpa's a psychologist with a PhD. And so, and I told him they did. I don't, because my mom and dad forced him and stuff, like the whole situation. Like, but he was like, he told me he didn't believe me, and he said that he thought that I was calling him and told him that just so he would come and pick me up, so that I could get a ride to somewhere. But and then my grandpa was like, well, you could have left, Ryan. You could have left the psych ward. And I said, no, I couldn't. They had me there. They forced me there because it was a 5150 and they extended it. And he was like, no, they're not allowed to do that. My grandpa was like, if you don't have any symptoms of mental illness, they can't do what they did to you. And I was like, they did. So my grandpa was like, he was flummoxed. And he told me if he would have known that they were going to do this to me, he would have got me out. But he said that he thought that I was lying to him to try to get him to pick me up. So I said to my grandpa, please let me talk to grandma. And grandpa said, no, this is the consequences of not being independent. Now you'll learn the consequences. And then he hung up. So, and I'm going to get to this, how, like, it's interesting because my mom would carry this on, and later that whole making Ryan independent thing would backfire against her. And later the psych ward would let me out and say that my mom was acting like a bad mother. And they basically said that I didn't have a mental illness. And, they basically wrote out a whole thing saying I don't have a mental illness and that I shouldn't be taking medicine. But we'll get to that later. But that was after I was already almost killed. So I'll get to that. So at that point, so I was like, now I'm freaking out. Then I go to the judge. The judge is a Jewish lady. And the judge says, so Ryan, why do you think that you should not need to take the medicine? The doctor, she said, he's a doctor. He says you have schizophrenia. This is a doctor. And I said, the doctor's not correct. I don't have schizophrenia. And then she was like, well, this is anosognosia. And this is a crazy thing, is my friend Noah had told me about this. He told me how doctors would say or how the judges would say that people have anosognosia. My friend Noah, who was against psychiatry, and I always didn't like Noah's, again, being against psychiatry, because I didn't believe him. I was like, no, of course there's such thing as schizophrenics. Now, I still think there's such thing as schizophrenics, but Noah told me how crazy psychiatry is and how basically the medicine would destroy people and how they have kangaroo trials and how it's like a very corrupt, evil system. So, but he told me about this in college, but I didn't believe him. So then she says, you have anosognosia, which means you have lack of insight into your sickness because of your sickness. And I was like, no, I don't have anosognosia. I know I don't have a mental illness. Like my friend Bucky, he gave me the MMPI test and he said, I don't have any mental illness. But she was like, well, the doctor knows what he's talking about. He's a doctor. And then she was like, so I said, okay, well, it's against my religious beliefs. Because I had read about how if it's against your religious beliefs to take medicine, and this might have hurt me when I said this, because I might have read it. Because I read that if it's against your religious beliefs, they can't make you take the medicine. And she said, what religion? I said, Judaism. She's like, well, how is it against Judaism to not take medicine? She said, I'm Jewish. This is what the judge said. She said, I'm Jewish, and it's okay. And in Judaism, you're allowed to take medicine. You're allowed to take psych medicine. So then I was like, okay, well, I just think that in Judaism, it's against, and I tried to explain, like, it's against forcing people against their will to take medicine that can harm them, and, to take something that can harm them and be harmful to them. And then she was like, no. And then she basically was like, okay, I order that you take the medicine. So I was like, there's nothing I could do at that point. I was like, holy shit. I was like scared at that point. So then I went to the doctor after the trial, and I went into his room and I talked to him, and I was like, okay, I'm still not going to take the medicine. So you're going to have to force me to take the medicine. You're going to have to give me, you guys are going to have to get guards to hold me down and give me shots, because I'm not going to take the medicine. So, and I was like, that's just the way it's going to go. So the doctor was like, okay, well, I'll make a deal with you. He said, I'll let you out of the psych ward if you'll take a shot, and I'll get you out of here in 2 days. If you take a shot, I'll get you out of here in 2 days. I told him I wasn't gonna take any medicine, but he said, so he tricked me. He was like, I'll get you out of here in 2 days if you take a shot, and and then you can go to San Diego, and you could be an outpatient program in San Diego. I just wanted to get out of the psych ward. So I was like, okay, just give me this shot. But in my mind, I thought the shot is just gonna be a quick shot, and I'm gonna be out of there. And I thought the shot might last a few days. I didn't know it was a long-acting injectable that lasts for 2 months. Now, what I learned is it takes 2 weeks to start. Now, within that 2 weeks is when I went to the outpatient program, and that's when they said that I didn't have a mental illness. But it was already too late at that point because after 2 weeks, that's when it started secreting in me, and that's when I almost died. But I'm going to get to that. So he said, yeah, if you take this shot, you'll be out of here in 2 days. So I was like, okay, I'll take the shot. So I'll get to the next part in a second. But as I'll get to this later, is I ended up going to the outpatient program, and they gave me the psych test because I told them what happened. They gave me the psych test, and they said I didn't have a mental illness. Now, 2 weeks later, so then they let me go, and they told my mom that she has to stop trying to make me take medicine because they gave me the MMPI, they gave me all the tests. They said I don't have a mental illness. But then 2 weeks later, the drug started secreting in my system, and I had an allergic reaction. Apparently, a lot of people have allergic reactions to drug. Basically, the drug just almost kills people. And it gave me brain damage. It gave me tardive dyskinesia where my fingers will and still to this day, maybe once a month, my fingers will start twitching like this, and I have no control over it. And it just it basically destroyed me in so many ways. And also gave me gynecomastia. And I sued the Risperdal in a class action lawsuit or whatever it's called for $50,000. I got $50,000. And I'm going to try to sue more. Once I get this quadricep big, I am going to hopefully try to sue the doctors. I'm going to try to sue everybody. I'm going to sue the hell out of everybody once I get the power. Once I get once I get my stuff going and everything, and people realize, okay, I really did discover the theory of everything. I'm going to go really hard. I'm going to sue so many people if I can. I don't know if it's too late now, but I'm going to try to sue people. But I already made $50,000 from it. So I'll get to this.